Well, it is my distinct honor and unique pleasure to have here our senior United States Senator Roger Wicker in studio. Senator Wicker, good to see you.
Lucien, good to be with you. I don't have much of a voice today, but I understand I've got some competition in that regard.
I've been putting these cough drops to good work, so I'm pretty confident I'll make it to 9 o'clock. If not, we got Will here who can fill in for both of us.
Well, somebody told me one time I had a face for radio. Apparently, I don't even have a voice for radio today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being in studio. It's kind of amazing. We're already a year into the Biden presidency. I know we're 2 weeks away from him giving his State of the Union address. How do you think the State of the Union is going right now?
Well, I can think of some things that the president might say. Our international standing is a disaster based on Afghanistan, based on what's about to happen apparently to a friendly country of ours in Ukraine, where the Russians are about to come in and take over and try to recreate the Soviet Union. The president might talk about how Russia got their pipeline, and on day one, the United States didn't get our pipeline.
And am I right? Did I read correctly that the president was lobbying Democrats to effectively block the Republican efforts to stop this Nord Stream pipeline, the Russian pipeline?
Right, yes, absolutely. And in spite of that, we got enough Democrats to vote for us in the Senate that there were 55 votes for an immediate sanction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. I think 44 all Democrats voted no. We're glad that we're glad we protected the filibuster, but it was frustrating in that sense. But yeah, and then there are people in the Democratic Party who wonder why gasoline prices have gone up 40% at the pump. Why it costs $100 to fill up your pickup? It's because in this continent where God gave us plentiful fossil fuels, which we can use to transport ourselves in an environmentally friendly way, we've decided not to use them here in the United States, but to let our adversaries in Eastern Europe take advantage of that. It makes no sense at all.
It boggles the mind that we somehow, after 4 years of hearing how Donald Trump was some sort of stooge for Vladimir Putin, that you've got Joe Biden helping Russia get this pipeline that'll make them more effective and give them more control in Europe. And Americans are paying over $100 to fill up a regular tank of gas because they're blocking these sorts of energy
right.
efforts.
And Democrats in the House impeached Donald Trump for supposedly colluding with the Russians, among other things, in the 2016 election. Of course, what we're hearing now the last couple of weeks is that it was quite the other way around with Hillary Clinton. Cindy Hyde-Smith and I signed a letter with a number of other Republican senators yesterday to the Attorney General, just pointing out that the man investigating that charge about what the Clinton campaign did to then-candidate Donald Trump, that man's an independent counsel. His investigation should go forward, and that would just be delivered to the Attorney General today. We'll see what he has to say about it. But I think it's quite the other way around from what was portrayed to us.
And you don't seem to be getting the mainstream coverage of that you did, the way there was the sort of breathless coverage on national cable news every time there was any sort of oftentimes made up stories about Donald Trump, and this is just not getting that kind of coverage.
The mainstream media makes the news.
That's right.
Yeah, and if they decide that a certain vaccine is the way we ought to go, and that if you need one, even if you're 5 years old, that's the message. And I don't mind them having a doctor on TV saying he thinks that's a good idea, but I think it's wrong for them not to put equally qualified professionals on TV saying, no, that's a bad idea. And I don't know what you think. It's a free country, but there's no way I would recommend that my school-age grandchild get a vaccine.
I Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. But there's almost a maliciousness, it feels like, from the media. I mean, I used to think it was kind of a negligence that they were liberal but trying to tell the truth, and now it feels like their goal is to come up with a narrative that advances their political objectives as essentially activist liberals.
And to squelch the other side of it.
Absolutely.
You know, and this brings up the whole issue of mandates. Who would have thought San Francisco this week would vote with over 70% to recall 3 school board members for this whole sort of woke attitude, including mandates and things like that? I think it helps me feel guardedly optimistic that this country may turn itself around in November. We sure have a big chance.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the San Francisco thing's a real wake up call. I mean, this is
not Nancy Pelosi's congressional district.
That's right. This isn't Brandon or Biloxi. This is San Francisco recalling people for being too liberal, too woke, and hopefully that is a sign that there's sort of an awakening happening. The southern border is something that I think people are paying a lot of attention to, the immigration crisis, and it feels like the Biden administration not only isn't doing anything, it seems like they're almost actively promoting a crisis on our southern border.
Well, they actively promoted it during the campaign,
right?
And of course, it would seem to me, if I were fortunate enough to have backed into the vice presidency, and the president asked me to take over a major role, I would at least give some lip service to it. But
maybe visit
our vice president. Just basically ignored the issue. But what can you expect? The president made it as clear as possible that he was not going to enforce the border. President Trump had Mexico working with us for a remain in Mexico policy on the asylum issue. And so someone asked for asylum, they had to go back to Mexico. Mexico was perfectly okay with that, even though a lot of those people were not Mexican citizens. They were from, all over the world, but a lot of them from Central America. The president said on day one, I'm going to end all of that. And the message that was heard throughout the Americas is the border's open. Let's come get it. And, of course, we're fortunate enough. We're the greatest society that the world's ever seen, the freest, most opportunity-driven place ever on the face of the earth. And when you send out that message, why would the president be surprised? 2 million people now.
Of course. And they made it clear.
We only have 3 million in the whole state of Mississippi. It's just amazing.
And they keep on coming, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of effort by this administration to do anything but encourage it. As I understand, they're flying people all over the country to more or less resettle them after they're coming in.
Yes, and I invite you to read my column about that, which was last week or the week before. But yes, it's astounding. And somebody's got a tape running, and here's a pilot saying we're doing this. It's supposed to be hush hush, and it's hard for Jen Psaki, the press secretary, to deny that. Yeah, it's amazing, but they have to do something with them. We need to go back to the strict enforcement, and Lucien, President Obama had a much stricter border policy. Really, President Obama's border policy was much more like President Trump, and it is, I think, astounding. It's going to be a huge issue, and we're stuck with a Democratic president for the next 3 years, but a Republican Speaker of the House and a Republican Senate can do a lot.
You feel pretty good that we've got a chance to take back the Senate in addition to the House coming up?
I feel good, but I'm not overconfident. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around this fall for our nominees and make sure we turn out a big vote to send a message to Washington, D.C. And I hope we will do that. It looks like maybe most of our races will not be nationally focused, but we need to turn out in the place where we can vote, and that's in Mississippi in November.
I think that's absolutely right. Well, Senator Wicker, thanks for being with you. Thanks for all the good work you do for the state of Mississippi and for spending a little time with us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me, and